I've got the tanks on the ends, the air tanks, are jump stitched in place with the epoxy, the easy fillet, or the Gel Magic, and I've got it untied because now I want to find the balance point. I figured that before I go around and get another nozzle, mixing nozzle with the Gel Magic and do all the seams, I want to finish out the seat tank, and I finally discovered or decided how I'm going to build the seat mechanism. But now I need to find out where the balance point is with the existing hull with the tanks on the end. So like I said, it's unstrapped, it's out of its cradles, and I've got an old Gel Magic tube under here that you just roll it around until you get to the point where it's balancing, and that's about where it's at. And let me reset up and I'll show you the side angle here. Okay, I've got the boat leveled, and the stern, we'll roll it forward. Okay, right there is the balance point. So now I'll just go ahead and let it lay on its side. Yeah. Right there. And put a mark. And then I'll measure it up into the hole. Well, I used my little dividers here to figure out where that point was I marked to something that was common I knew would be on the inside. So I set the one end to the leading edge of one of the finger joints, and so right there, that's the center of balance. This was one I thought I had by eyeball, but this is the actual correct one. So that will control the rest of the building. I will build a seat platform somewhere around in here to give myself a little bit of room on the seat for adjustability for final trim in the water. But it should be pretty much on. I know where my balance point is, so I'll just have to balance the seat, put it in before I screw it down, put the seat body itself in, knowing where I balance out at. So, but I'll show you that later on, how I figured out my balance point. Now that I went out yesterday on my motor scooter and I brought this back. This is what I've been waiting for. It's a Tempest. This is the manufacturing company, and I got this one mainly because I used an action seat on my Flycaster prototype, but it had the metal swivel, which is fine for people doing freshwater and stuff. But I want to be able to go saltwater. So we've got this seat, and it's got a little flip down thing here. It's all plastic and probably stainless. I'll have to check, see if these screws are stainless, but it's got the little plate that'll come off and we'll set in there. So the seat is, you can take this, I don't know, maybe 5-6 pounds out of the boat when you're moving it around or storing it or whatever, so it's not in the way. But and this is also one that you can spend an extra, I don't know, $50 and get the maybe it's 40 something, and get the pretty padding. So it'll be in here like that, and it's coming up. It's getting some height in it. I don't think I'll make it too high. Much higher than this, and I need to figure out how much rake I'm going to have in the seat. It already has some rake to it. I may put something else in, but well, I'm in the process of balancing this out again. I've got it untied. I had it tied down again so I could make my bottom panel here, which was a continuation. I had originally 4 of these things cut up with notches so that I had these stringers in to keep the seat in place. There's going to be 4 of these things across here with the plate on top. It's easier and structurally stronger to have 3 sections, and they're some scab together in the middle there just to make a whole piece. So it's 3 layers wide in the middle, and then I used two layers on the top panel here, and I've taken my plane and beveled it down, just keep marking on the side with a pencil until you get it to fit down into the slope here on the fillet on the side. So then I've got that in place, and I've got these other stringers that I was going to use in these notches, you can see, which I filled in. Just put a little piece of wood in them and epoxy them together, and it's one piece of wood basically. And then I beveled the ends, so when this goes on, it'll fit in like, well, like that. And a nice little bevel. So what I've been doing now, and I'll have to redo again, setting up the seat here. On its level, I had a piece of angle iron on the floor to balance the seat, and then I set in the seat on the floor on the top of the angle iron and balanced, and to see how close my weight in the seat is, and it's within a ½ an inch of the balance point of the seat, so I'm not going to worry about that. I mean, that's the big thing right now is setting up the hull for you. I would probably go ahead, when I get done, I'll have an idea of where this panel is going to go, and it's long enough you can move the seat up and back, fore and aft, until you get the balance point in there. And you may even do that with some, maybe not even putting in screws, but after you finish the hull, but before you mount the seat plate to this panel, is to take it to the lake and then have somebody watch you as you set in it and move the seat around, and then kind of put some marks off the side where it goes. But now I have to put the electric paddle on, because this is going to be more than just somebody sitting in the middle with a paddle or oars, or, well, you could, I was thinking of maybe putting some oar locks on it too, and this seat's a swivel, so you can swivel around and maybe row it. So I don't know yet. Maybe I can do something temporary. So let me go put the electric paddle on the end and then rebalance this thing to see how it's going to affect the seat placement. Well, as you can see, I've got the electric paddle on the back, and I've got the tiller, which on the electric paddle, well, that's if Joe ever, if we get around to making it, won't have that. So I've got it balanced with the seat in the what I would call the motorless position, and the balance with that little 7-pound motor on the end has moved back about 10 inches. So now it's right on the leading edge of the finger joints, and it balances pretty good there. So that means if you have any gear or lunch or whatever, you'd probably stick it forward. I may make a change. I'll have to experiment with this a little bit. I may move the seat pillar back just a hair, or I may move the seat forward a bit. I'll do some more thinking on this as to how I want to get this thing to balance out. Probably you're going to either go one way or the other with this hull. So locating the aft edge of this is like, using your sliding 90, and then you have a cut mark right here, which should be the 6 foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6 foot station cut line mark, those ones that we cut into the upper edge of when we had them out on the lofting, and then just measure back 3 inches aft of that, and then set up, and that's where the aft edge of this goes, and then the other one's going to be 12 inches ahead of that. So that's how you'll set up and make certain that it's square in the hull, is use those station line cut marks, because then because the hull is square, when we did all the jump stitching and everything, that these 2 points are equal distance from the end squared up. So got that set. Now I'm going to take it apart. I've got some marks where I had put in the beveled pieces here and mark the outline. So now I need to put in like 3 coats of epoxy underneath here to seal it off, because this will never see the light of day again. And the same with the bottom of the seat and everything here. I'll probably take and bevel these down a little bit, just to, I don't need to, but I just like that sort of thing. And just put a little bit of bevel on. Doesn't have to, but you know you did it, and make it look nice. And then the inside part here will need to be epoxy too, but I think I will go ahead and gel magic it in place at the moment. I've got some lining marks, and I'll gel magic it in place now that I've got the hole tied down and squared up again. That I'll put in place, and then once it sets, then I can go ahead and paint everything with epoxy, put a nice big bead of fillet material along both sides of it for strength, and then when you're ready to put the top on, I'll put a nice big thick layer of gel magic on top, and then set everything in place. So I'll come back when I get all that stuff done and we get to where we're assembling again. But this is pretty much the last assembly thing I'll have, and then we'll come along when everything is kind of put together, and then do the final gel magic around the seam edges, the fillets, and a little bit of taping. There'll be tape on the leading, this edge of the tank, and the same on the bow, and then on these parts here where they go with those little cup things, I'll put a layer of glass along here too and trim that in, just as a little bit of extra strength in there. So we'll come back later. The centerpiece now is all cured in place. I had some extra, put on a pretty thick coating of gel magic, and made a somewhat of a fillet on either side of it. So I don't think I'm going to put in a regular wood-filled epoxy fillet on either side of it. There's enough gel magic down there to hold it in place, plus the plate on top will keep it from rotating, and then the ones in the panels in front will also be attached to gel magic to this flat spot here. But I've got a couple pieces of some 4-ounce cloth I'd saved from the scrap left over from doing the other holes. And I always want to stress that save your scrap and get as big a pieces as you can when you're doing it, that you can use them later. The reason I'm doing this is kind of like what I did with the finger joints back here, and if you'll remember on those tests we did early on finger joints, that the glass on the layer on the layer of this thin formula plywood tends to give it a lot of surface strength. So since this will be underneath the whole seat pyramid and never see the light of day again, I want to add a little bit of extra resistance to fracture or breaking in case you run up on a rock or drag it over the beach, or some hard edge surface that will. Now I don't want to crack the inside. The outside will have glass, and the outside glass will protect that surface, but I wanted to add some glass on the inside to give it some strength from tension, or tension, stress on the inside. So let me go ahead and do that. I've got one coat on all of the other pieces, and then once I get this wetted down, now that this is dried, I'll go ahead and coat all the sides on this, and put another coat on all the other pieces, and then we'll come back when I'm putting it all together. But you don't need to see me do this. So we'll come back. Well, we got her sitting here long enough to turn green, so I might as well pull up tape before we call it a day. It's tacky but firm, so that's what I refer to when it's in the green state. There we go. I'll let that cure overnight, and we'll come back, and I'll probably put one more coat of epoxy on this just to fill the weave a little bit and give it a little bit more strength, but mainly more protection. The sides have been coated too. I'm going to give them another coat, and then we'll seal this whole thing up and then put a finish on this thing. Okay, I've got two weights. I got my Bubba and my Chuck. About 250-pound weights right about that position. I guess you can see that. Let me see, I can't see. Yeah, right here and right here, about 3.5 and 5 feet from the bow and 3.5 from the stern. And I just wanted to check that. I couldn't remember if I did that on the original test or not, to see whether or not you could turn this thing into a sport utility boat, an SUB, to where you can either single seat kayak, double seat kayak, or maybe put in you might be able to put some canoe seats in there. There may be some options I'll come up with on the plan, so I just wanted to check that out.